I'd like to call this meeting back to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gibbons.
Here.
Mrs. Gilch.
Here.
Mrs. Johnson.
Here.
Mrs. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mrs. Dentino.
Here.
Mr. Marks.
Here. We'll move on to approval of minutes. May I have a motion and second for executive session, August 19th, 2024, and special session, June 26th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mrs. Gilch.
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell.
Yes, on June 26th. I am abstaining on August 19th.
Noted. Mrs. Dentino.
Yes.
Mr. Marks.
Yes. May I have a motion and second for regular board minutes, August 19th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mrs. Gilch.
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell.
Abstain.
Mrs. Dentino.
Yes.
Mr. Marks.
Yes. We'll move on to 4.3, public comments of agenda items, action only. I see none. We'll move on to reporter solicitor, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. I don't have anything at this time.
Thank you. Reporter superintendent, Mr. Buildup.
Good evening, Mr. Marks. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, ladies and gentlemen of the public, welcome to Central Administration. I'd like to ask the Board of Education for a consent resolution on items 6.2A through 6.6R. I would like to state that 6.6P, if I could just, Mr. McCauley, as amended, there was some old language in there that was not accurate. And I 6.6P as amended. I did there was something in the book that talked about a termination that did not happen. It was old, it was removed today. So I'd like 6.6P amended, as amended, please. And that's just a consent resolution.
Done.
That's it.
May I have a motion second, please?
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gibbons.
Yes.
Mrs. Gilch.
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson.
I'm going to abstain on ID numbers 2080, 1968, 5572, 1408, 6208, and 4556, and 2037 under 6.6P. Yes, on the balance.
Noted. Mrs. O'Donnell.
So, no on 6.3B, policy 0168. And bear with me, I have a lot of abstentions. So for 6.6G, I am abstaining on ID number 2963, 3746, 0593. On 6.6P as in Paul, I am abstaining on 3705, 2963, 2273, 3746, 0593, 3396, 5996, 5009. Yes, for the balance.
Run that past you later.
I sent you an email.
Ms. Dentino.
Yes.
Mr. Mark.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Move on to 7.0, Board of Business Administrator, Mr. Marcoli.
Yeah, asking for consent agenda on items 7.0 through 7.7A. Yeah, 7.0 through 7.7A.
So moved. Second.
Any questions?
I do. On check number 134395. That's for asphalt paving. I'm certainly not an expert, but it seems that it was shoddy work.
Yeah, it's actually, it wasn't asphalt paving, it was a micro resurfacing, so it really wasn't pavement that was put down. It's a
Okay.
type of work that provides a 10-year warranty. So instead of paying $320,000 to just have it sprayed, we elected to have the 1-inch micro surfacing done for $460,000, and it gives you a 10-year warranty. I understand it doesn't look right because it's not paving.
Right.
And the contractor said the more you use it, the more it'll blend together. So that's what we're hoping for. But yes, I understand what you're saying about it.
Okay, okay.
What does a 10-year warranty cover? Cracking again? Vegetation come through the parking lot?
Covers all that. Before they did the actual micro resurfacing, they came and they cut out the cracking and they repaved it. And then they put this top over top of it. They did it at Mullen, they did it at Lauren Fleming, and then they came back like 3 weeks later and then they put the micro surface over top of it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I do on 014, check number 014524. I did have a conversation with Mr. Merkley about this. I am just requesting that letters be sent home to parents regarding money is being transferred. And so I'm requesting letters get sent home to parents so parents know how much money is being transferred, and so they can just keep an eye on it.
Can I provide some explanation on that?
I don't know how much I can say, because it has to do with students, so that's why I'm being very vague and careful.
If you want to
Yeah,
talk
not
generally.
specific, exactly.
Yeah, okay,
So
do your thing.
usually at the end of the year, we would transfer the money for the students back to their parents, just cafeteria. These are only students that go to high school. So if you look back at the agenda back in like July, we canceled a lot of checks. Most of them were all that. So instead of doing that, what we did is we reached out to the high school. We sent all the 8th graders that graduated. We sent them to Camden County VOTEC, and we sent them to Black Horse Pike. We said, verify these kids. They verified the kids. A lot of them got crossed off. They must have went maybe to maybe Catholic schools or something like that. So then we sent a lump sum payment to both Camden County VOTEC and Black Horse Pike to be credited on the child's account. So when they got there, they already had money on their account. And if they had a sibling, we just transferred it down into our own school to their sibling's account. So this was the first year we did that, and it happened kind of late. So I think that's why she brought that up to me.
Have we had any complaints? It's 1,000 people almost. Any complaints?
We had one complaint, yeah.
One?
Yeah.
1,000, one. Okay.
I'm just requesting that parents be aware of how much money is being transferred on behalf of their kids, so,
You said letters though.
well, if you'd like to call every one of them, that's up to
No,
you.
I think there's things that go out at the end of the year for kids that are transferring to high school. That just says if you transfer to one of the public schools, your cafeteria money will be sent along with them.
So, yeah,
So you're not giving them an amount that's being transferred.
No, we're gonna do that before they actually graduate. You know what I mean? Like in May, when you're going to like a high school, we're gonna say, as part of you going to a public high school, we're gonna transfer your amount of money to that high school.
So the money that
Is
was
that
just
something you-
transferred, are the parents
Nicole, you
aware
figure
of how much money?
yes.
Yeah,
We should.
something we can figure out together to get it to the parents, how much of their
Yeah, but
dollars
they
get
can
sent to regional.
But they can sign on to the system and see how much money they have.
Or indicate that.
Okay, if they don't know how much they had in middle school, they can now log on to the high school and see how much is there, but they didn't log on at the very end of the year. Can we just let parents know?
You could also
Yes.
do a
That's-
robocall telling people to check their account. There may be credit. A
Well,
lot of people
we'll-
start
we'll
checking.
send
they
out a
get
letter.
credits.
But if the kids already graduated, they don't have an account anymore.
No,
It's
well,
at the high
some
school.
before.
Yeah. I'm just
Mr.
talking
Bake,
about
you
for
work
this
on that?
year.
You and Dean work on that?
Absolutely, Mr. Marks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I had a question on, I had a couple here. So the Atlantic City Electric, have we noticed an increase in costs like everybody is talking about at home?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Another question was, how many lockers were painted for $8,500 and what was the reasoning?
All those lockers were, Ann Mullen, boys and girls, locker rooms. That's what they were,
How many lockers is that roughly?
maybe 1,600.
Oh, wow, okay. And then for, there was a fire inspection that cost $20,000. I thought we just did an inspection and paid them.
You're talking about the annual certification of every school. Yeah, they have to come around every school before we open, and they go through and they test every single fire sensor. So it's a lot of time. They do it every year.
I thought that, I just asked this question a month ago and we had another, like, how much are inspections roughly for?
Yeah, but this was the annual inspection to open the school, so they go to every school and test every single sensor. They only do it once a year.
Okay. That was all I had.
Thank you. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gibbons,
I'm gonna be a no on check 134493 and check 134635. Yes to the balance.
Mr. Gelch,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
I'm going to abstain on 134503 and yes on the balance.
Mr. O'Donnell,
I am abstaining on 7.3, 134655. And then yes on the balance.
Ms. Dentino,
Yes.
Mr. Marks.
Yes. 8.0 old business, Mr. Villadone.
I don't know if it's old business, but I do see one of our administrators in the back, Dr. Denise Tabasco. And Denise, it's a little bit of a transition, but I did want to, in front of everyone, thank you for all of your years of experience here as the math supervisor in Gloucester Township. You're doing so well for our students and their families, and we kind of have a little transition going, but I did want to see you in the back and recognize you. Thank you, Dr. Tabasco.
New business.
Yes, well, as we compliment Dr. Tabasco, I see in the back of the room, hovering next to Mr. Tro, our newest mathematics supervisor, Mr. Zach Wakely. Zach, please stand and be recognized. Welcome to Gloucester Township. Welcome to Gloucester Township. That's all, Mr.
Thank you. We'll move on to public comments. Please keep in mind you have 3 minutes per comment.
Dina Henry Summerdale.
Please come up to the microphone, please. Thank you.
Thanks for the- Good evening, Dina Henry Summerdale. I should have asked this during the first public portion, but I wanted to make sure that I found it. Knowing that Mr. Long is the school district's attorney, Parker McKay, do we have another attorney? Is that correct? And so there's a lot of legal services
Mhm.
for that. Is the district being sued?
Well, that's a
One,
loaded.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times?
So there are active litigations, yes, Mrs. Secretary.
That's a lot of money so far, so far for this month that we're approving $17,000 worth of legal services.
Wait, no,
No,
not finished.
no one.
It's her time. You have a board member.
So is it like for emails being sent out, or is it like work being done?
It can be any legal services under Parker McKay's contract. So they do the special services, for example. I don't do our special
Meaning,
services,
like,
like special ed cases.
Special
I
education?
do not do that at this district.
Okay,
Okay, so that's when yeah, or negotiations with certain staff members.
so staff and special education.
When it's union negotiations. yes.
Okay, all right,
We're
thank
special.
you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'm back. Hi.
Yep.
My name's Kelly Porter. I'm Gregory's mom. Nice to see you again, Dan Long.
Nice to see you.
I saw you at Highland with Dr. Rapisi. It's nice to see you here. I'm back because I met with Mr. Bilodeau regarding my son's placement, and he never followed up with me. He told me that he couldn't tell Dr. Martin what to do. And my family, against our better judgment, sent our son to your school's, your CST director's placement of the least restrictive environment. My son has been melting down in your Loring Fleming school every morning. I have been late to work by 4 and 5 hours for a week straight. I don't know how many of you can do that every morning, but I'm on the verge of taking FMLA because my son is in such distress. We are now a Perform Care family. I never even knew what that was. Do you know what that means? You probably don't, because you might not have special education kids, but I can tell you I'm his mom and I'm not going away. I'm not afraid of your Parker and McKay attorney. I'm not afraid of advocating for what's right. I'm always going to be Gregory's biggest advocate. My husband and I had to retain a special education attorney yesterday to get my son a proper placement because Mr. Bilodeau failed us. He never followed up. I can't tell you how disgusted I am, Mr. Bilodeau. I'm not here to attack you. I'm here to be a mom. I know you brought Violet Martin here. I read everything and I'm just going to leave it there. But when you agreed to meet with me, you never even followed up like you promised. You went on vacation and left me hanging, filing for emergent relief, hoping my son wasn't placed in that large gen ed setting with pull-out support that never happened on the first day of school, an IEP violation. It doesn't matter if it's a half day. You sold me a program that said he was going to be pulled out and he wasn't. My son later got strep throat and was missing the next week because he was highly contagious, right? I went to the doctor 3 times that week, documented it, sent it to your school. Let me tell you, while your school CST, Mrs. Faris, on the phone today when my son was melting down in the foyer, again, day 6, told me that if Gregory had more regular attendance, then he wouldn't have these issues. My son has attendance. He's just in your Chillville at Loring Fleming because he's overstimulated by the classroom and Dr. Martin's placement. I don't know how many parents sit here and sit idle to it. I'm not going away. I'm going to the Department of Education and the Education Commissioner every time respectfully, because my son is not thriving in that environment. He's done no work. I told you this was going to happen because it happened in 1st grade when I had to file for emergency relief with Blackwood Elementary and they moved him to MD program at Shoes. So we're going to keep him there. So today in his meltdown, I'm sorry, I'm beyond upset. Like, this is my child and he can't tell you because he's communication impaired and on the spectrum, but I can. Today, when we arrived at Loring Fleming, Mr. Bilodeau, I would not leave my son because Perform Care told me that they would like to send an ABA. Oh, do you want me to sit down and get back up?
What we'll do is we see if anybody else wants to speak and then we'll
Oh.
come back to you.
I'll get up as many times as I need
No
to.
problem.
Anybody else?
Any others? Please step up.
I'll be right back.
No problem.
Hello, everyone. This is my very first meeting, so nice to meet you. I've been here, my name is Fanny Ochoa. I'm a resident of Ariel. And
Can
I've
you spell your last name, please?
at Ochoa. And I have 2 children who have IEPs and who have attended. I moved into town in 2021. So I'm posting a question. Do we have now in the district a CPAC, an active CPAC? And I'm here because I've heard concerns. I'm hearing concerns from parents. I think I saw you somewhere, so I'm here in support of that and asking for this. As a parent that, although I have some grievances sometimes with the district, I also have had so many successes for my kids. So I'm here to ask if we have a CPAC and propose that if we don't have one, And I'm willing to step up and help with that and be an active parent as posting a solution to our systemic issues that are happening. I don't know if many parents know, but a CPAC is a special education parent advisory group. It is a state mandated group, which is parent-led, parent-driven, in conjunction with collaboration from the district. So this is not about fighting with the district, but actually looking for systemic change. So we don't have these issues and we can look for results in a bigger way. So like for the many years to come, we don't have to have those things and we can do it. It's hard to collaborate, but I'm pretty sure we can do it. I'm pretty sure that we can bring results. I've led a CPAC in the past. I have worked in creating those type of groups. So I'm hoping to join whatever parent has a child with a disability and we can make this happen. So I'm posting a solution to a problem that I saw and I'm pretty sure we're gonna be successful. So I'm hoping that we have a great collaboration and that we get our children the necessary supports that they need in a collaborative way and create change not only for whatever individual situation, but from now on that our kids can thrive. And I'm positive that Gloucester Township will be successful in those endeavors. So I'm hoping that you guys make it happen because I know this is mandated. I know it's hard to sustain. I know it's hard to create. But this is something that must happen and it is law. So it is time to bring that law forth.
I thank you for your comment. That's something we'll look into. Thank you.
You had somebody second that.
Can I get back up?
We let
Anybody else?
everybody get the first shot and then you come right back. I will let you know right away, Mrs. Porter.
Any others, please step up.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Never done this before.
That's
I
all
have
right.
no
Take your
idea
time.
what I'm
Just
doing.
let us know your name. and then-
Okay, Amy Ortiz, I live in Clementon, New Jersey. I'm trying to hit, I thought I had 5 minutes, not 3.
We'll let you come back.
Okay, in June 2021, I moved back to this area. I was here well over 20 years ago, graduated from Washington Township. I moved up from Central Florida. I have a set of twins that have diagnosed autism and a rare chromosomal deletion. I have not had to fight this hard in Florida for things for my twins. Kelly Porter reached out to me, so I'm more than happy to step up and support the needs of our kids. So from coming from township, I'm familiar with a little bit of the system of the education. People say education in New Jersey is supposed to be top notch, maybe for neurotypical kids, it's left the message to be desired. Mr. Bilodeau, and how many elementary teachers do you have in the district? Roughly. Thousands. 300 elementary school teachers? Okay. Of those teachers, how many are special ed? Roughly. From 300. 100? Roughly? Okay.
Yeah.
Of all those teachers that are in special ed, I'm sure they're all familiar with the curriculum that's taught in all the elementary schools. Keep those questions in mind because I'll circle back to that. I got to skip along because I only have a little bit of time. When I first moved here to Florida, from Florida on the IEP, my kids received approval for ESY from Florida. When we moved here in June of that year, I was told there's no room. So already there was a IEP violation for ESY. My kids were denied ESY. Then they went to Bankbridge, where they spent an entire year getting physically assaulted at least 12 times each. I have twins, physically assaulted. They specifically needed to get on 1-on-2 for my kids because they were in the same room, basically as a bodyguard to protect them against other students that were beating them up. I was told that a BCBS was there, would be hired, was never done. Even by the end of the year, a behavior tech wasn't even in there. I was told the next school year that this student was not going to be there. I'm going to have to come back up. He was. Within the first 2 weeks, he literally flipped a desk and it hit my son in the chest. I contacted their caseworker who had zero knowledge of anything was going on. And it was her impression and my impression that the school was supposed to notify her of anything was to happen. I asked my kids to be transferred. It took almost a half a year. So I lost the summer of ESY. I lost this year of learning and now another half a year. They fell behind and I'm going to have to come up. I'm sorry, Dr. Martin's kind of familiar with this and I have a point, I promise.
They got transferred to Union Valley. It took them a whole other half a year to realize I'm in a safe learning environment. And I'll come back to that because I'm at 4 seconds, but I'll come
Hang
back.
tight, hang tight, Mr. Ortiz, hang tight. Is there any other comments?
Let's hear it, Ray.
Good evening, school board members. Ray Polidoro from Ariel. When I first heard of Mrs. Porter's situation, and some other people tried explaining, it's been quite a while since I've been to a school board meeting. I was inundated with all types of letters, three letters, GED, FI, HP, all these things that I didn't quite understand. Can the school board explain to me, or can the superintendent explain to me in the simplest form exactly what it is that is being requested that seems to be so unbelievably difficult? Because the last time I was at a school board meeting, I remember this board focusing on one child, the next child, and the next child, one individual at a time to make the body of our students. And I'm having a hard time understanding why this is so difficult. Could you first explain to me what it is that seems to be so simple that can't be done and why it's not being done?
Sure, Mr. Polidoro, these are all individual student matters. I can tell you broad strokes. Every school district nationwide is required to provide what's called FAPE, a free appropriate public education, to all of its students with disabilities. It is something we take very seriously. I understand there's disagreements and I appreciate that and I respect that. But we can't talk about individual cases regardless of if their parents are here or anything like that. But the overall North Star here, Mr. Polidoro, is that the districts have to provide FAPE. And parents will disagree, and it happens in virtually every district, with how services are being provided, and there's a mechanism for the parents to address that. So that's the broad strokes as much as I can tell.
So I guess what I'm trying to understand is that if I'm not mistaken, and I've been to school board meetings in the past, just not anytime recent, I remember this board turning the planet upside down to achieve the goals and satisfy the parents for the well-being of the child. And I'm not quite sure that's not being done. One student doesn't have to have a name, needs something accomplished. Can you tell me, besides disagreement, I just don't understand a parent having a request for their child. I don't understand why there's a disagreement. I don't understand why it's just not getting done. Please help me understand that.
It's something, like I said, it happens everywhere all the time, Mr. Polidoro.
That doesn't make it
Well, it
okay.
doesn't, but that, I'm not saying it does, but I'm saying that there are always disagreements between parents and schools. To a degree, that is up for other people to determine. What I can tell you is there's a mechanism to go through it. There are litigations that get filed. There's a mediation process through the Department of Education. I cannot and will not get into specifics. And if it's not the
I
answer you
understand.
like, there's nothing I can do about that to
I
satisfy you
understand.
here.
Looks like I'm gonna have to start coming again. Thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Elder. Thank you, Mr. Long. Any other comments? Yes,
Good
ma'am.
evening. My name is Brittany Pennell. I am a parent in Gloucester Township. I am also a special education teacher in Camden, New Jersey, with a master's degree in special education. And to come here tonight and to hear that children have IEPs that are not being fulfilled, and to say FAPE is the reason we can't discuss it. I understand what you're saying, but an IEP is also a legal document
100%.
and it has to be followed.
100%.
And if you cannot follow that, that communication has to happen with a parent up front. It cannot be a situation where a parent is not being followed up on when it comes to their IEP, which is a legal binding document. It's a disservice to the child and it is a disservice to the community. Unfortunately, well, for me, my child does not have an IEP in Gloucester Township District, but as a special education teacher, I am going to advocate for any child that has any special needs. And to hear that parents are asking, is there a program, a group for them? There's no CPAC. There's no answer being provided to them for their support when issues like this arise. That's disheartening as a taxpayer in this community. It's really sad. And we as a community should be coming together. We should be working with our parents that have IEPs to try and do the best for their child, because at the end of the day, they're a product of this community and they're going to grow up to be leaders in this community as well. And that's the purpose. So if we're dropping the ball on their IEP, then we're dropping the ball on them in general, and I don't think that that's fair. That's my statement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Do we get back up now?
We're just gonna see if
Yep,
anybody,
any other?
Let me
you're
know.
good, Mrs. Porter.
Thank you. How many 3 more minutes do I get? I
Amazing.
got a lot of minutes.
Okay, cool. We'll do reset.
15 total, so I'm at 3. Thank you. We're starting?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Bilodeau, my son has been spending his days in Chillville at Loring Fleming. I'm sure Dr. Martin can tell us what that is. It's a room next to the nurse's office where kids decompress. My son has not learned anything in there. I haven't challenged that with the State Department of Education yet. I just hired my lawyer a few days ago, but I'm just saying this to say that I'm not going to allow my son to sit in Chillville, Mr. Long, without education. And your CST department, when I came in this morning, late with my son, begging him to get out of the car as he cried in his handicapped parking spot because he has that with his disability. Although your bus picks him up down the street, Mr. Bilodeau. I don't know how you sleep at night, but I'm going to leave that to you. I'm just going to say as a mom, I can't sleep at night because this is my child. And you didn't do what you promised me. You didn't follow up and you didn't make sure my son was okay. Now I'm going to get back to my son because I won't get over it. This morning when I arrived at Loring Fleming School all week last week, I was messaging when my son returned from strep throat. I was messaging the school. Would you please have somebody assist me in the foyer because I didn't know if he would get out the car. He was hysterical. My son was hysterical. He didn't know the math. He didn't know the lesson. He didn't know the social studies. He never learned any of this. Then this gen ed setting Dr. Martin picked for him without our consent. She placed them in there. We never knew until we got the letter the week before school. That's against the law too. But my son is now crying in your foyer again this morning. We go into the office. I asked to speak to your Dr. Rose, who's absolutely amazing, honestly. I think he could train your staff, including Dr. Martin. And Mr. Merfield, how do you say it? Morfield? Morfeld. Mr. Morfeld, your VP, if you don't know who that is there. He came to help me with my son, with your guidance counselor. And my son spent another 5 hours between Chillville, and I stayed all that time with him. We called CST and their office because I insisted that somebody at CST know what was going on with my son in these meltdowns in the morning, right? Because I'm getting emails from the teachers asking if Gregory's coming to school this week. My son's in Chillville, he's in school, but there's no work getting done. And he's just having emotional distress and breakdowns there. The reason why I had to call Perform Care per his neurologist. They now want to come into your school with an ABA to observe, but Dr. Martin didn't get back to Dr. Rose today when I requested that. I would like to know when that's going to take place since this is happening to my son. Is there any urgency in that? Or are we going to put that off like we did everything else? If the school is pretending that I'm the problem and it's not the placement, which we all know it is, because it happened in first grade at Blackwood. You want me to sit down and get back up? I got what?
Mr. Ortiz, how much?
9 more
do you have
minutes?
for 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Please,
Probably needs to-
please,
All right, go ahead.
please.
I thought we had 5 minutes.
It's intentional. It's supposed to be 3 and 5.
All right, so the transfer to Union Valley, I don't understand why it took a whole half a year, further traumatizing my kids, getting physically assaulted when it couldn't happen like within a week after I requested. Ria Castellanos was a great caseworker for us, but then when we got to Union Valley, we got a caseworker that wasn't so good. At the end of the year, let me trail back, from Bankbridge on, every year I have requested retention. We all know COVID did a number on our kids, especially the special needs kids. We were denied ESY the first summer. My kids lost an entire year at Bankbridge of education because they're getting beat up and assaulted and living in a hostile learning environment. I requested retention then, was denied. I was quoted the law that they can be in school till they're 21 years old. Why would I wait 10, 14 years for something that they're having a problem with right now? Puzzles me. Why would I wait for something that they're having an issue with now? Keep that in your head. Then the board or whoever made the decision to take the entire program from Union Valley and move it to a whole new school, further upsetting the special needs kids. You're messing with the most vulnerable population of the students. These are kids that thrive on routine and schedules and familiar. No parental input, no parental questionnaires were sent out. Literally, the teachers didn't even know that the entire program was being moved to a whole new school. There was a student in my kid's class that had not eloped in 3 years. Within the first week of moving to the new school, she eloped. Why? Because you messed up their system without consulting anybody, not even their needs, not even parental input. That's just disgusting. You know, that's so much for supporting us. And then again, last year I requested retention, was denied. It took me having to spend money on a lawyer that I do not have. I do not work because, like I said, I have 2 kids that are special needs. I had to hire the lawyer. It's pretty much been resolved, but it took that money that I don't have for the district to wake up and say, yes, these kids, you know, I was told that you guys look at everybody individually, but you were shoving them in with the mass crowd. You know, we moved from Florida, big move. We were denied ESY, a year and a half of school, gone, no learning at all. And then they turned around and said, well, look at what they did at Lilly. They go to Lilly now. And I'm like, yeah, do you know why? They were in a stable learning environment. It took me having to hire a lawyer for the eyes to open and ears to listen for my kids to finally get that retention. And then, Dr. Martin, you specifically told me that you would help me.
Across the board.
Address board, please.
Okay, well,
I'll get,
you wanna go?
no, Ms. T, stay up there. Take
Okay.
another 3 minutes. and
Good,
finish
yes.
up at 3.
I was specifically told by Dr. Martin that she herself would handle getting tutors for my kids. I asked you the question, how many special education teachers you have in this district? She literally reached out to two teachers in order to tutor my kids that I've been asking for 3 years. One reached out back to me. It took her 2 weeks to respond to my email responding to her. By that time, ESY had a week left. And then she turned around and tells me, well, if the school district calls upon me for tutoring, I gotta drop your kids. How is that stable? How is that helping my kids? It's in the IEP for them to get tutoring. Still waiting. I went to my lawyer and she said she emailed your lawyer and this, that, and the other thing. And now I just have to wait. I've been waiting. I have the emails. I have copies of everything. So, Mr. Bilodeau, she's your employee. Where's my tutors for my kids that I've been asking for 3 years and that my lawyer requested? That's what my kids need help in. It took me 3 years and a lawyer to get them retained. And now I've been requesting tutors for them to catch up. If my kids were not able, I wouldn't be fighting this hard. But I know that they're capable. They just need a chance to catch up. They've been through a lot. They've been through enough. A lot of these kids have. A lot of these parents have. Basic things. We should not have to fight this hard. Our kids deserve every possible chance. They're the weakest, they're the most vulnerable student population. You're only as strong as your weakest link. Well, let's build them up. Let's help them be as strong as our neurotypical kids. I mean, you have kids that are on the spectrum going to Harvard, MIT, getting doctor's degree. Do you want these kids in the future to come back and say, I got my education at Gloucester Township? They helped me succeed. You know why? Because they have parents behind them that fight. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. I moved here 3 years ago. I did not know this was such a big of a problem. I'm going to fight.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Porter, time's yours.
Hi again. Mr. Bilodeau, I just wanted to make you aware that today when I was at Loring Fleming with my son's drop off that ran hours into his education, Mr. Long, I asked Dr. Rose to call your CST department because I wanted them to be aware because we have a review on Wednesday. I have a funeral Wednesday. I don't know how that's going to go. I may need to postpone CST, the review for the IEP 30-day. So I can just say, we called and Mrs. Faris, is that how you say it? Jennifer Faris, do you know her name? for CST? You may not, but I can look it up in my email and give it to you before I leave. She was on speaker with me and Dr. Rose and told us that we do our review on Wednesday and they had no intention of changing Gregory's placement, although he was having these meltdowns all week, and insisted that he should have better attendance. Mr. Bilodeau, my son is present. He's in Chillville. We're doing no work. How is he thriving there? You guys are causing him irreparable harm. He now sees a psychologist. Because of this situation, Dr. Martin has placed my son in willingly. I'm tired of emailing you. I'm tired of CCing you and BCing you. I'm angry for my son, and this is not okay. I don't fear Dr. Martin trying to bully me through Parker and McKay and Susan Hodges, they're a firm partner. And who's paying for that? Our tax dollars? Because damn loan's a lot cheaper, I'm sure. Does everybody know? Like, I'm just asking. It has to be a public record how much money is being wasted there because you won't put him in an appropriate placement because Dr. Martin's pride is hurt. She's not his neurologist. She's your school doctor and not a medical doctor at that. My son's neurologist wanted him in an LLD per his IEP. My husband and I have an IEE. And I'm willing to go to trial for my son and then appeal it if I don't win. And I will appeal anything for him any day of the week because he was nonverbal till he was almost 3. When she placed him in 1st grade at Blackwood in Gen Ed and the same thing happened, he got an MD from emergency relief in a resolution. This is disgusting. These parents are all here for help and you don't seem to care. How much money are we going to waste in Parker and McKay going forward? Just make a resolution with your parents. Do what's best for the kid. Because sitting in Chillville for 5 or 6 days is not it. And Dr. Rhodes is amazing. I told you he could teach Violet Martin a lot. He's amazing. He listens to your parents. He cares about the kid. My son now has Perform Care because he's melting down so bad that our pediatrician at Cooper would like him to have Perform Care so that we can prove what's happening here. I want to know when your school's going to let the ABA come in to observe my son since Dr. Martin's office did not give Dr. Rose an answer today. You're the superintendent, Mr. Bilodeau. I'll be back.
Okay.
No? Good. Anybody else? Can I? Good.
Are you sure? All right.
After the next 3 minutes.
Okay.
You want to go, Dina? Okay, good. So while I'm in your Loring Fleming school this morning, missing work. Good thing I have a job, right? Missing work for like the 5th or 6th day. And Dr. Rose and Mr. Moorfield call CST on speaker because I insisted on it. Your CST worker, Jennifer Faries, my son's case manager, told me, Mrs. Porter, we don't plan on doing anything for Gregory. Imagine, Mr. Long, if you had like a special needs kid and they didn't do anything for her either. Just in general, right? Like, could you imagine, Mr. Marks? So I said, she said, well, we can consider, we want the least restrictive environment for that LLD setting. I said, he's LLD. He always had a special education teacher under Devin Schaefer at Stratford. Their CST director was amazing, by the way. Dr. Martin, maybe they take classes. I don't know. Maybe she missed some. I'm not really sure. But
Kelly, you don't need to take the pot shots. Just make your point.
I'm sorry.
Just make your point. You don't need to take pot
I'm
shots.
just,
Dr.
no, my problem is this. This is my child and nobody is doing anything about it. Nobody. Not the superintendent, not the board. I need to go to the state board next because my son is crying in Chillville. With your VP, your principal, and your Mrs. Ash, your counselor, your school counselor. I know there's multiple there, so excuse me. But I'm sitting there with him because I don't want to leave. I'm not leaving my son in distress in your school over work he doesn't know because you placed him somewhere you didn't listen to the parent in, or your CST director did, because we didn't have any part in it. When we called Mrs. Faries, she said the only thing they could do was give Gregory a one-to-one aid and offer that on Wednesday. Why would you give my son a one-to-one aid but not LLD or MD? How is that the least restrictive environment to have a one-to-one aid for a child who never had one? Does that make sense to you? This is going to waste a whole lot of money of your money in Parker and McKay. I'm just saying, let's make an agreement and fix it for my son. Let's just do what's best for the kid here for once. You're supposed to evaluate him soon. Let's do what's best for Gregory because all I want for him is to be in a small class setting that he doesn't have to stay in Chillville all day with no work. This is a complete violation of his IEP, damn long. He hasn't had speech yet. We're into our third week of school, Mr. Bilodeau. That's a break in services. He had a break in services when you took him into Chillville and didn't give him any work because he didn't understand it. He had a break in services when you guys refused to help me to accommodate when I asked for math that he can understand, and they keep giving him the other math, and Dr. Rose is asking the teacher to comply, and it's not happening. My son is in tears every morning in your parking lot not to go into school. And while you might not care, I'm not going away. And we can make this last for years in court with Parker and McKay and my attorney. Because I promise you, we can make this what's best for Gregory, or we can make it something else. And I don't want to waste any of your dollars. I want what is going to make my son thrive. And this is not it. I'm done.
Yes, Dina.
Yeah, well, we can let her finish it.
Ms. Hendry, you'll be your last comment, please. Time's yours.
Dina Hendry, Summerdale. So I haven't been to the past 2 meetings because I had COVID and then I went to Disney World, which was a fun time. If I recall, last year, one of the board's goals was more parent involvement and more transparency. While I was melting in Disney World, it was saddened to see that the board did not meet those goals. And I just want to know why and how we can get from achieving those goals, even though they may not be this year's goals, right? And if it is true that we're supposed to have a parent group that has parents with children with special needs, then why haven't we had it? You know, is that something that does exist, that is a secret club that I can't be a part of?
What's that?
Is
It's
it?
not a secret club, no.
So why isn't that something that's been told? I mean, here's the thing. Unfortunately, this district is notorious for miscommunication, delay of communication, not communicating effectively. And we would email and we don't get responses back. Or when I came in June and I talked about Hunter mathing like a champ, but can't really read, it was me who had to call in July to Miss Martin to say, hey, word on the street says that what I said was incorrect. Can you help me out here? You know, it shouldn't have to take this long. We shouldn't have to, as many parents say, advocate so strongly that we think that we're the crazy ones, you know, that we're doing something wrong, but we're not. We're just advocating for our children. And it should just be with great communication. And you guys are the professionals, you know, and you guys are the adults. And when somebody emails you, you email back within 48 hours and not have to chase. And we all know that I've had to chase many times for many different people, and it shouldn't have to be that way, you know? So I'm just asking you, why don't we have this cool club? And why don't the parents know about it?
I think it's something we'll look into again.
Yeah. And
But why should we have to look into it? There should be like, yes, there is this association, and yes, you know, it's on the website. And speaking of your website, you should have had somebody look at it because it is not well. It is very confusing and very hard to navigate. As somebody who designs websites, no bueno. But where is this association or parent group that we don't know that it's a part of? I mean, my kid has been a special education student since he's in first grade. And this is the first that I've been hearing that there is some sort of parent group for kids with special needs. That's sad.
Thank you.
All right.
At this time, we're going to move on to board member comments. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Are we out of our time? All right. Ms. Fretch, you're gonna be our last one as we are over 30 minutes.
I basically just, not this one. I basically just have a comment. I'm a grandparent that has 2 grandchildren that have gone through our school district in the last 12 years that I've been coming here, and they both have IEPs or both had IEPs. When they came here at the age of 3, Our Lady of Lourdes and other outside sources said that this was the best district for special needs children. I found that to be true. My children went through the whole process, and if they needed something, communication was quick in return. Changes were made. Parents and children met with their counselor or their child study team person. I don't know what the technical name for her was. And things got done. And I'm wondering, because these last few years, I've been hearing so many complaints from special needs parents. What changed here? What happened? Why are we no longer the best district for special ed children? And what happened to our, what I would call high ranking in that field? And maybe that's what you should look at. What changed and what caused that problem? Because the things that I know about it, for the most part, yes, there were little things like you mentioned, and you work them out, but it doesn't seem like they're getting worked out anymore. So maybe you could look at that. That's my take on this.
Thank you, Mrs. Rock.
Thank you. We'll move on to board member comments. We have none. I would like to thank everybody taking the time to come out tonight. May I have a motion to adjourn? We're already closed, right?
We're already closed.
What we doing?
We're closed.
Board member, we're on board member comments. The public comments is closed. We're over our 30 minutes. Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I have a motion, a second to adjourn, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Good night.